Of all the art forms that I experience in my career, the two that I've loved the most are the art of theater and the art of the comic book and the superhero and the supervillain. So when I started reading Sherlock Holmes: The Final Adventure, my first reaction to it was to research Sherlock Holmes, and I went back and I read the stories it was based off of, and those really excited me. But what really started to excite me is the way these characters are archetypal characters, much like the characters in our superhero stories are. When you think about it, the Batman is really Hades, Superman is really Zeus. These characters are all based off of mythological characters, and in the same way, there's a mythology around Sherlock Holmes and his superhuman ability to solve problems. And when I was reading the play, I was like, wow, this guy, he's the Batman. And Moriarty is Dr. Doom. I mean, there's a stage direction in the show that says Moriarty effortlessly tosses a man across the room. And so I started getting excited about the idea of taking these characters that are already heightened, this heightened reality, and bringing it into a world that is a combination of this Victorian London and the idea of like a Frank Miller comic book. And things that have really inspired me in the process are Gotham by Gaslight. That is where I'm coming from with this show. I'm really excited about the epic nature of it, this operatic grand scale that we've come to, and all the designers have just grabbed a hold of it and made it happen, and it's a really exciting show.
This is kind of a similar show that Shawnee's done for the past 2 years. This slot has typically been devoted to Dracula, Wolfman of Green County, and each one of those shows has sort of a similar weight to it, so it also has a similar dramatic look to this. So when I was approaching this show, I was seeing a lot of shadows, a lot of stark contrasted lighting, not necessarily a whole lot of colored light, but just a lot of light from off angles, people in shadow a little bit more than they normally would be, just for the style of it. And if anything, what we decided to do was to even kick it up a notch further and play with silhouettes, play with lights that are coming from a lower angle so that's catching the bottom of the face, which will really play well, I think, with some of the dramatic moments in the show.
Well, when you think of Sherlock, you know, you have your initial thoughts of the stereotypical look and what everybody thinks of Sherlock with the cape and the hat and the pipe. But reading the script, it allowed for some other things to come up, kind of going with other looks of the time and, you know, authentic late Victorian styles, because the actual script is not when most of the other shows that Sherlock are in is set. So it's a little bit different than what you would instinctively think of for Sherlock. So, thought of the comic book, you know, the script does allow for that kind of feel to it. I instantly thought of the sheen of the fabrics, to be able to play with that. Really to be able to give, you know, the comic book to help with going along with the lighting of the shadows and the high contrast.
The set's going to be very large, which I really like and I'm a little scared about, but it's going to get done. My favorite thing probably about this set is that there's a lot of collaboration with the costume designer and with the lighting designer. There are scenic elements that use both of those things, including the window at the back. It's kind of the main focal point that uses fabric, lights, and a scenic element. So when I thought about the script, I thought about a lot of things with Victorian architecture, but also keeping it not as a box set, not as a house, because there are so many specific different locations in this set. So something that can be versatile but very specific in its detail. The biggest thing that changed when I found that out was the paint detail that I was going to do. A lot of it was going to be less realistic and a lot more contrast of colors. A lot of black lines, kind of an outline feeling, and different highlights than what I was originally planning on doing.
Well, initially I started looking at period music, violin stuff and piano-based stuff. Once he came up with the comic book concept, I started looking at more modernized underscores from more modernized versions of Sherlock Holmes, to begin with Hans Zimmer's approach to the new Sherlock Holmes, and started listening to some of the comic book movie underscores, period in the instrumentation, but it's much more modern in the sound. So I use things like this pizzicato string ensemble. I think for me, when it comes to using it to enhance the show conceptually. The comic book feel is much more dramatic than I would have gone for if we were just doing this straight without the comic book concept to it. So I try to really add a lot more suspense to the music that I create. A great show. Everybody in this show is really, really good. I think everybody's grabbed a hold of the comic book feel. So come expecting to see superheroes and supervillains. You know, with the Sherlock Holmes undertone. It's a great story, and I think the way it's written, it really is perfect for a comic book concept. And a lot of people have really grabbed a hold of that. And, you know, since I'm playing Moriarty, I'm going all the way with the supervillain.
Thank you.